Welcome to the Tuesday, May 12th, regular closed session meeting of the East Bay Mud Board of Directors.
Gary, you should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes start now. I'm going to set the timer. You can go ahead and get started.
Hello, President Gomez, Board of Directors, and General Manager Chen. My name is Gary Walters II, and I am an engineering designer here at the district. When I was promoted to designer in 2012, we had 5 designers and 10 drafters. The CAD was created and managed by our pipeline drafting group with the support of 2 software engineers. Since then, pipeline drafting and all those positions are gone. In the senior engineering designer job class description, there are 16 examples of duties identifying the dozens of knowledge, skills, and abilities a senior designer needs. One of those skills is using CAD, computer-aided design and drafting, which has hundreds of functions within it that we use as a tool to display the actual design. About a month ago, HR posted to fill a senior designer role. And last week, there was an exam, which was really just a work sample. This exam was not of the dozens of skills identified in 14 of the 16 examples of duties. It was on a single function, creating a 3D profile, which is one of the functions used in this new CAD program we started using about 2.5 years ago. CAD is really just a drafting tool, and profiles are only included on less than 5% of the drawings designers create. In the last 2.5 years, I've never had to create a profile, nor have I received 1 minute in training to how to use this 3D tool. I did not pass this exam, so-called exam, on this single drafting skill, and it's likely there are other competent designers that did not either. Now, as designed, I am not participating in the panel interviews this Friday, where my 29 years plus of constructing, maintaining, and designing East Bay Mud's distribution system would shine brightly. Though I am often someone that is able to identify issues and challenges, that does not make me the problem. I am part of the solution. I encourage that when you are presented with issues and challenges identified here at the district, that you try not to just jump straight to possible solutions. Maybe take a moment to try and identify what the root of the problem really is. There are people out there that are very talented in creating problems for their solutions. I thank you for this time and your consideration of my comments, and I yield the remainder of this time.
Thank you very much, Gary. Any other public comments, Madam Secretary?
There is none.
Okay, thank you. So with that, the board will now convene to conference room 8 to discuss closed session agenda items 1A and 1B. And then we're scheduled to return for the regular board meeting here at 1:15 in the afternoon. Welcome to the Tuesday, May 12th, 2026 regular meeting of the East Bay Mud Board of Directors. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Director Chan?
Here.
Director Katz?
Here.
Director Lewis?
Here.
Director Odie?
Here.
Director Smith?
Present.
Director Young?
Here.
President Gomez?
Here. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this afternoon, we have the huge pleasure of having a Contra Costa County Science and Engineering Fair Award winner presentations. And thank you all for being here with us. So for the past 13 years, East Bay Mud has proudly co-sponsored the Excellence in Water and Wastewater Research Awards in Alameda and Contra Costa counties. This award recognizes outstanding student projects in science and engineering and helps nurture the next generation of innovators in water sustainability. With the challenges facing us, it is more important than ever to inspire young minds to develop solutions for ensuring safe, reliable water for our future. Today, I'm honored to recognize 2 of these young, bright minds whose dedication to water science and engineering truly stands out. Please join me in congratulating Anshu Gowda and Devang Nair, 7th graders at Diablo Valley Middle School in Danville. Their project on water purification earned the prestigious Award of Excellence. Their project shows a simple, low-cost way to make water safer by using natural filters and boiling. It offers a practical solution for water purification for hikers or communities that lack access to clean drinking water. Ashnu and Devang, your project reflects both innovation and commitment to taking care of our water and our community. We are proud to present each of you a certificate of $200 award. And also, we want to recognize your project sponsor, Anupama Rangaswamy, for supporting research in water and wastewater science with a $100 award. So for now, let's give a big round of applause to our young scientists. And I am curious about a couple of things, so I'm hoping you guys wouldn't mind answering a couple of questions, if that's okay. And you might want to come up to the podium when I ask the question. Maybe both of you can come up. But basically, I'm curious about what inspired your interest in water purification. Where did that come from?
So I'm a scout, and I'm going on a big trip in 2027, and I'm interested in how you'll get fresh water.
Yes, that's a very practical reason. You're going to be hiking a long time and needing water.
Canoeing too.
Excellent.
And I wanted to help countries, poor countries like South Sudan, access filtered water with these cheap filtration solutions.
That sounds really exciting and very thoughtful. So are you guys interested in exploring other water-related topics in the future?
Yeah.
Tell us
So
what-
other filters that we hope to do more research on are filters like sand and gravel, or others like
Pine cones and plant fibers.
That sounds very cool. Excellent. And so for next year, you want to try to test out some of these other filters that you're talking about?
yeah.
Great. So for my fellow board members, do you guys have any thoughts or questions for our awardees today?
I do.
Okay, Director.
So
Young.
tell me why how you chose the method that you chose to test for your project, and tell us a little bit about it.
So we chose pumice stone because it's a physical filter. It blocks out the sediment, and then the charcoal filter is a
Its charcoal filter works through a process called absorption, which is really good in filtering chemical-based impurities. Well, chemical impurities like carbon-based impurities. So we chose that as well. And we've added boiling too because it kills bacteria such as
E. coli and Giardia.
Wow.
And then did you test it afterwards?
We couldn't drink the water because
didn't give the best results.
it improved a lot, but not clean, healthy enough to drink.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Very good. So with that, again, yeah, another one. Okay, Director Lewis.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for all your hard work. My son was a scout, an Eagle Scout, so I expect the most out of you. I know you do hard work, and I'm
Oh,
looking
it's
for
true.
big things. 409, yes. So
I
I'm
come from
expecting
805.
big things, and I look forward to seeing you here again.
Yes, we definitely, I think we know the future is in good hands with young scientists like yourselves. Thank you so much for choosing water as the topic that you care about. All of us up here also do very much. So thank you for joining us. Congratulations again. We definitely hope to see your continued impact in this field. And now I would like to move on down and present the award certificates and the checks to you. So one more round of applause, everybody. Okay. So I'll come forward. We'll take some photos.
Thank you.
First, we have a certificate. one of you is the bang?
Me.
Okay, so we're going to have you hold it like this. And we will, I'll hold the check and then give it to you. How about that? Okay, so let's have a picture together. And then one more, here's your check.
That's unsure.
That is so inspirational, I have to say. Young people making a difference out in the world already. So with that, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Government Finance Officers Association Distinguished Budget Presentation Award and the Operating Budget Excellence Award, and that falls on my colleague, Jim Odie, Director Odie.
Yeah, maybe I'll start. So the district received 2 awards for its fiscal years 2026 and 2027 budget documents from the Government Finance Officers Association, or GFOA, and the California Society of Municipal Finance Officers. The Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada presented the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award to the district for its published budget document. To earn this recognition, the fiscal year 2026 and 2027 budget document had to meet rigorous criteria as a policy document, operations guide, financial plan, and communications tool. 3 independent reviewers evaluated the document, noting the district's excellent long-term capital planning and exemplary program descriptions within the department pages. The California Society of Municipal Finance Officers awarded the district the Operating Budget Excellence Award, their highest level of recognition. This award has additional requirements beyond the standard criteria and recognizes agencies that produce budget documents meeting the highest professional standards. One reviewer commented, "The 10-year financial plan is very well thought out." We have Director Odie, who's also chair of the Finance Committee, who will present the award to staff, including Sam Feldman, Nathan Hood, and Bernadette De Leon. The budget process is a team effort involving department staff, finance staff, and the board of directors. This collaborative work results in a district budget that is both informative and effective. And so if we can get Sam, Nathan, and Bernadette to come to the front.
This is also very inspiring too. We're not nearly as cute, we get it.
So next, we would have announcements from closed session, and there are none. And therefore, we will move to public comment. And I see that we do have one non-agenda item public comment in our audience. And Madam Secretary, do we have any online commenters at the moment?
No online public comment?
So if you are interested in providing public comment and you are on Zoom, use the raise your hand feature. And comments for non-agenda items will be heard now. Comments on agenda items will be heard when those items are up for consideration. So for now, let me call Dave Byer for the non-agenda item regarding deferred comp.
Thank you.
There it is.
Okay, so I'll introduce myself. Dave Byer, some of you know me. I was an employee here from 1991 to 2024. And during that time, I know Director Katz has seen me, but I made many presentations on energy-related matters, as a senior civil engineer. But the other part of my job was I was also a local 21 rep for the Deferred Comp Advisory Committee. So I did that for also 19 years. And that's one reason, that is the reason why I'm here, is that we did a good job on that committee in keeping our fees low, diverse choices, high-quality choices for mutual funds, and education. The one thing we didn't do, or at least I don't think we did very well, is represent retirees. And I didn't realize that until I became a retiree. And case in point is last week I came to the advisory committee meeting and made public comments there. And the comment there is really, as a retiree, you can't withdraw your money online. You have to make a phone call. You have to talk to a live person and every time you make a withdrawal. 457 has a very crude way of doing it, but it's not the best. So I'm here to kind of make a point that maybe we should have a retiree on the Deferred Comp Committee. Now, you may ask, is this a strange request? Is this unique? It is not. Back in 2023, I was a representative for the district at the NADGA conference, and NADGA stands for National Association of Government Defined Contribution Administrators. And while there, we met a number of other representatives that were retirees, okay? And then I've also presented a table in front of you. It was taken from, well, some of the data was taken from the last meeting, but the point there is that of the $837 million of assets held by the plan, over 43% of it is held by retirees. So these are people who don't have a representation. Actually, may clarify that. It's not just retirees. That number is for inactive participants, which is essentially retirees or anybody that's separated from the district. And I'm making the assumption the majority of that is retirees. If you look at the average balance of those accounts, it's pretty high. So most of those are probably retirees. So that's why I'm here. I'm just here to encourage you to maybe add 1 or 2 retirees to the comp board. Most people are working right now, but once you become a retiree, your perspectives change just a little bit. And being able to access your money online seems to be something that should be allowed. And I know that's already been agendized, and they're going to add that to the next meeting. But in general, this information would not come up unless a retiree shows up and says something. Okay. So that was pretty much my point of my comment.
Thank you so much, Dave, for bringing this up to our attention, and I trust General Manager Chan, you'll follow up on that. Thank you.
I have a question. Do you have a proposal for how the agency would select the representative or options for that?
You know, I don't, but I do know that other agencies do it. And if I was smart enough, I would have asked how they did it when I was at the conference, but it's out there. So I imagine a little bit of investigation could come up with a way to, how you select a person is probably the most complex part.
I had a quick question. Just
Follow-up question?
yeah. So retirees can't access the net benefits online portal that actives can.
No, you can access the portal. You can do all the things you can do now. When you go to the section that says withdraw, it redirects you to a phone number to call for the 401k. For the 457, you can access it, but it's extremely limited. And in fact, my complaint was I made a withdrawal and they took out of my Roth, even though it's not, it's taxed if it's under 5 years. There is no flag, there is no warning. It wasn't a big deal, it wasn't a significant amount, but the online option for the 457 is really poor.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we'll move right along. Thank you, Dave. We're moving on to committee reports, and the minutes of the April 28th Finance and Administration and the Sustainability Committee meetings were provided in our agenda materials. And we will now receive updates from the following meetings. Today's Planning Committee meeting, and Director Lewis will give a brief summary.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Planning Committee met today. We received a forecast-informed reservoir operations, or FIRO, update. We also received an education plan regarding purified water outreach. Both reports were accepted by the committee.
Thank you very much, Director Lewis. And we also are receiving a report from the Legislative and Human Resources Committee meeting by Director Smith.
Thank you. Legislative Human Resources Committee met earlier and received legislative report number 326, which included, let's see, AB 2513, Petrie Norris, Wildfire Regional Forest and Fire Capacity Program, AB 2739, SORIA, Water Affordability and System Stabilization, SB 1125, Minivar, I believe, Water Rate Assistance Program, and additional oral report on legislative issues, and on SB 707, outreach requirements and proposed public meeting outreach plan, presented by Richard Cole. We voted to support each one, and let's see, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Director Smith. Now we will move on to consent calendar items, and we do have a request from a member of the public to address consent calendar item number 3. So we are pulling that from the consent calendar, and we will have that addressed in a moment. First, I would like to know if there are any other items that the board wishes to be pulled from consent? None? Okay. So I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 2 and 4 through 5, and we'll pull 3. So do we have a motion to approve those 4 items?
I'll move.
Moved by Director Chan. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Director Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. So now we will hear from Michael Morgan about consent calendar item number 3. And do we have any other commenters, Madam Secretary, on this item?
None.
Okay. So Michael Morgan, thank you.
Hello, Board of Directors, General Manager Chan. My name is Mikey Morgan. I'm the Chief Steward of Local 444, and I'm here to talk about item number 3. 444 does not actually object to this contract, but there was some confusion about what this contract initially was because we weren't given any notification about this contract in advance. 444 requests that when a contract such as this that is closely related to our work and can be confused with our kind of work, please go to the contracting out committee so we can further discuss it and ensure that it is not our core function of work, so that we are confused in these meetings and we don't come up here and know whether we object or not to a contract. But yeah, as of this time, we do not actually object to this contract. We do agree that it is a different function of work, but it's just in the wording and in the notification process to the unions. So please, moving forward, if it is as such, either a level of notification, is it a memo to the union, or bring it to contracting out? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael, and we will look into how to make it clear moving forward. So now I would entertain a motion to approve consent calendar item number 3.
Make that motion.
Moved by Director Odie.
Second.
Seconded by Director Lewis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Very good. So moving right along, the next item is actually a public hearing, and we don't need board action for this item. It's only a hearing. So here, I will announce that we will conduct a public hearing to receive comments on the district's draft Urban Water Management Plan 2025 and the draft Water Shortage Contingency Plan 2025 in compliance with the Urban Water Management Planning Act of the California Water Code. We will get a presentation from Bradley Ledesma, our engineering manager.
Good afternoon, President Gomez and other members of the board. The Urban Water Management Plan is an important planning document that is required by the Water Code and has to be updated every 5 years. Over time, the Urban Water Management Plan has become the district's long-term water supply plan. It's where we evaluate water supply reliability. It houses our water shortage contingency plan, which is not just important for droughts, but also emergencies. It's an opportunity to engage with the public and share and receive input on that long-term water supply plan. It's also a great reference document, allows us to be consistent across our messages across the district. Okay. Stop. There we go. Even though it's 2026, it's called the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan. As part of developing the Urban Water Management Plan, we held a public workshop with you back in January of 2026. During that workshop, we went into detail about the plan, walked through the analysis, and received comments from you. There were 3 big changes that I wanted to highlight that we covered during that workshop from the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan that's included in the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan. We changed the drought management program trigger, we included transfer waters, and then we also added an additional scenario that looked at what would happen if the reliability of our BR supply to the Central Valley Project were reduced in combination with having to meet the additional releases associated with the Healthy Rivers and Landscapes program. We incorporated those comments, and then we made a public draft available to you towards the end of March. Shortly thereafter, on April 6th, we made a draft available to the public. Since that release to the public, we've been re-examining our population estimates, and we'll be revising those as part of the final plan. But that will not affect our demand forecasts that are in the Urban Water Management Plan itself. The Water Code requires that we encourage public participation as part of the Urban Water Management Planning update process. We did that in a very extensive way, starting with that public workshop we held with you back in January. But then what we also did is, once we released that, we made 41 notifications to cities, counties, and a handful of other water agencies and other agencies within our service area. We also printed out 32 hard copies of the plan and made them available at libraries. We published the fact that that plan was available to the public 12 different times in newspapers, both in the East Bay and upcountry. And in each of those notifications, we made sure that we were being communicative about the fact that we held an evening virtual public meeting on April 28th. During that meeting, only one person from the public participated, and there was no comments from that individual. Today is when the comment period ends for the Urban Water Management Plan. So next steps are we will receive any comments we get today, and then we'll listen to any comments we receive through the public hearing, and then we will respond to those comments in the final plan that we will bring to you on June 9th for consideration of adoption. The target and the goal is to submit this to the Department of Water Resources by the regulatory deadline of July 1st, 2026. And with that, I will open up for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. First, I would like to hear from my fellow board members about this item, if we have any questions or any thoughts yet. Director Odie?
Do we have any public comment on this?
We do, but I was hoping to first hear from the board and then
Okay.
we'll have public comment. So, any questions or thoughts or comments from the board? No? All right, Director Lewis?
I don't know if this is one of the public comments you have, but I did want to acknowledge that the board received correspondence from the Sierra Club San Francisco Bay looking to work with us on this issue.
Yes, and I believe that is the public comment that we will receive. And so let's go ahead and hear from our public commenter. I have Henrik Albert from the Sierra Club. Please come up. You can identify yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last things.
You have 3 minutes.
Great.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Heinrich Albert. I'm a co-chair of the Water Committee for San Francisco Bay Chapter of Sierra Club. I'll start by apologizing that we're late in this process. Understand with the current administration in Washington that we have environmental insults coming down every single day, and we are kind of running around trying to keep up with it. So I want to talk with you today about demand projections and the urban water management plan. We didn't get final approval from our own Sierra Club internal bureaucratic hoops to jump until last night. I didn't think we would be able to get it distributed to you, but I understand that it actually did get out to all of you. So I did prepare some hard copies in case somebody didn't get it, but I think that you all do great. Great. So I want to focus on the graph on the first page. So what you see there is, on the blue line, is over the last 25 years, the water that you've actually delivered. And the multiple lines in different shades of red are the urban water management plan projections that you've made over those same 25 years. So I'm going to stop and try to flatter you for a little bit. We have a lot of respect for EBMUD as a water agency, certainly compared to most of the other water agencies in this state. You have done really a great job at managing the McCallum River and this natural resource in an environmentally responsible way. And you've been very open. The things that you do, the decisions that you made, you've been very transparent about. And that's very important to members of the public and to groups like ours to learn what you're doing, what you're thinking about the future. These demand projections, they're not transparent. They can't reflect your best data and your best models of what's going to happen in the future. So we want you folks that work on this to reconsider your models, reconsider the data, and see if we can do a better job on this. And let me say that we have reached out to some of the staff members here that work on this, and they've been very forthcoming, very helpful, and we have a specific meeting set up for later this month where we can compare and hopefully continue to work in a collegial way. So what I'm trying to do today is just bring the board up to speed on what we've been doing and what is in the pipeline and is moving with staff. That's all I really need to say today, but I'm happy to try to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Albert. I would love for staff to get a chance to provide a little bit of context and reply, and then if we have any comments from the board, this would be a good time as well. But thank you for your comments. Thank you for your document and your graph and everything. That was very helpful.
Thank you.
Well, first, let me just say thank you, Mark and Heinrich, for reaching out to us. We actually have a meeting scheduled with them on May 28th. We'll continue to work with them on this, better understand where they're coming from. We are pretty far along, as Heinrich mentioned, into the urban water management plan process, so it wouldn't be something we'd be able to fold in or change until we get to the 2030 urban water management plan.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed in the document that we received, it references Alameda County growth, but I think a lot of the growth is going to happen in Contra Costa County during that time. And we also, the documents that we tend to rely on or the sources for our projections are slightly different, I believe, as well. So all of that, I'm sure, will come up in your conversations and the moving forward. But thank you for following up. And I too agree that it's super important that we incorporate comments from our community to as best as we can. Any other thoughts or comments from the board? Director Katz.
I do want to clarify what I believe may be a matter of interpretation in the way the urban water management plan is laid out. There's a statewide scheme involved where every water agency in California has to lay out projections, but also has an incentive also with this statewide scheme of encouraging conservation that has to be documented against a counterfactual hypothetical water demand that is excessive. And I see that hypothetical as very unlikely to occur, almost impossible to occur, because we've been so successful in conservation, and then we credit our conservation activity against it that results in a more realistic expectation of what our demand would be. But but this is part of that statewide scheme of the Urban Water Management Plan law. That's my understanding of the interpretation, that we're not actually planning on those drops of water coming out of our pipes to customers after we credit for conservation, but there are reasons why the law structures the calculations in this archaic kind of way. I wonder if you could talk some more about that so that can be clear.
Yeah, no, thank you, Director Katz. The Urban Water Management Planning Act requires us to consider general plans and the planning for all of the land use agencies, and there's 22 of them within our service area. And with the push for housing within, the state of California, there's a forecast of new homes and new housing within the state that we have to account for. But you're right, we also have to account for our conservation and a lot of the other efforts that we put forward. And so we do account for all of that within that framework.
And we're not planning on any water supply projects as a result of the calculation prior to crediting the conservation. We're not actually planning any additional supply projects that aren't contemplated in the plan currently.
Well, the Urban Water Management Plan does identify a need for water, up to 15,000 acre feet in the third year of our drought planning sequence. And what the plan does is it identifies potential options to meet that need. But it's important to reiterate that the plan's updated every 5 years because things change, the context change, the landscape can change. And it gives us an opportunity to modify that and change that. So between 2020 and 2025, we made changes, and we'll do the same thing as we move forward in 2030. During that time, we'll continue to look at those potential water supplies, but in general, the need for water is different than it was in the previous plans.
Thank you.
Director Young?
And thank you, Henrik, and the other folks from the club for engaging. I mean, I appreciate it when we get input on the things that we're doing for the long term, and especially love hearing about it early enough to be able to actually incorporate it. And the good news is that we do plans all the time, and we're, sort of talking about supply reliability and how to do things, so encourage that kind of engagement, often. Don't have to wait for a public comment deadline or that to do so. So that doesn't mean you have to take a position, but you can engage and weigh in and ask questions, and encourage you to do that with staff and with us. The question I have is, as I think about this plan, it's similar to what Director Katz said, I think, is that, this is just one of the many ways that we slice and dice our situation and look at what are all the needs, what are all the things that we do, and how they relate to each other. The big one coming up is our, is the WSMP, which is coming up, a couple of years from now. We'll be going into that. And that, of course, that process, of course, resulted in us leaving the expansion of Pardee Reservoir and developing, not willingly, I guess, I wasn't on the board at the time, to look at the kind of very diverse water supply portfolio that we're now considering and planning for. So I guess some other water agencies do use this study as a way to promote additional supply acquisition, et cetera, or infrastructure development. I don't think that's us. If that's, it's not the only thing we base decision-making on. We have our
budget and rate structure, our capital improvement plan, that are, and our rates are based on, a much more conservative forecast of demand so that we make sure we have the money to cover, to cover our operations. And I noted in the letter that there was a discussion about rates going up, but those are it's a little bit apples and oranges because it's really a much more, it's just the next, few years, and it's conservative in order to be able to make sure that we do have the financial capacity to conduct our business. If that's the right way to put it.
Thank you, Director Young. Any other comments, questions from my fellow board? No? Yeah? Director Odie?
I'll just be quick. Sorry. Gotta press the button here. So thank you for the presentation, and I appreciate the Sierra Club's comments. It was a little concerning, looking at the graph that, we're currently at, I think, 82% of what's projected. So I hope that when you all meet, there's some consideration given to these comments, and if you decide to reject them, maybe make sure there's a rationale when it comes back to us. Another thing I was curious about on the DOF growth rates, what's the relationship between those projections and, say, the ABAG RENA numbers that cities are going to have to meet? Because housing is a crisis, and I'd like to know exactly how we're basing future housing.
So the Department of Finance forecasts are really looking at historical trends, birth rates, death rates, immigration rates. It's somewhat disconnected from housing growth itself. So Department of Finance forecast and population won't necessarily reflect the number of new housing units that land use agencies within our service area may be forecasting. And that's one of the differences, and we'll be talking about that with the club when we meet with them in a few weeks.
Okay. It'd be interesting when the final report comes out, just to make sure there's some analysis of that. Because we do have a huge backlog that cities in our service area have to meet, so I'd like to make sure that we're accounting for that. Thank you.
And before we close the hearing, I just have a couple of suggestions for us. So the outreach plan that you outlined for us, it's pretty robust. I think it's fairly typical for public agencies to do what you've gone through. And I would like to suggest that between now and the next plan, which is 5 years from now, that we begin planning for a little more robust outreach with regards to like our local jurisdictions. I know that we have regular coordination meetings with them. I don't know whether the plan becomes one of the agenda items to discuss with the local jurisdictions, but that would be great if it is not already being done. Also, I like to mention that this is happening whenever I have a ward event. I would encourage, other ward event folks to make sure that we bring this up so people in attendance know, or when we go to when we speak at other events. And then also potentially having a draft plan available when we are out at other outreach opportunities, when, we're all over the place all the time. I know that it may be dense and it may be, a lot of people may not tune into what it is, but I'm so glad the Sierra Club is tuning in, and I would love others to be tuning in more as well. So with that, I think we can go ahead and close the public hearing. Thank you very much. All right. So we will now move to the termination and discussion, and General Manager Chan will introduce each item.
Yeah, first we have our legislative update. We have Debbie Michael here from our legislative office to provide the update. I'll note, as Director Smith noted earlier, that we discussed this at the Legislative Human Resources Committee, and the committee unanimously supported staff's position recommendations for the bills that we're going to discuss with you today.
Okay. Good afternoon, President Gomez and members of the Board of Directors. I'm here to present our legislative report, which contains 3 bills for position and an informational item. So the first bill is AB 2513, Petrie-Norris. This bill expands California's ability to fund wildfire prevention and landscape resilience projects. We're recommending a support position. So AB 2513 allows state agencies to directly award regional landscape grants to regional entities to implement regional priority strategies. It's a lot of regional in there. Fund broader vegetation and ecosystem management work, and support fuel reduction efforts. So the bill also expands funding eligibility beyond forests to include grasslands, shrublands, chaparral, and coastal vegetation areas. So AB 2513 expands the scope of grants available for fuels reduction, forest health, and regional landscape grants, which could benefit EBMUD and our work through the Upper McCollum River Watershed Authority, or UMRA. AB 2513 also expands CAL FIRE's local assistance grants, their grant program, to include manual vegetation management, ignition prevention activities, the creation of fuel banks, and so that could potentially be a funding source for work in our service territory. So we have recommended a support position on that bill.
I think we could hear them all and then make
Okay,
a recommendation together.
So the next bill is AB 2739, SORIA, regarding water affordability and system stabilization. So we're recommending a support position on this bill as well. AB 2739 is co-sponsored by two water agencies, Irvine Ranch Water District and Rancho California Water District. So AB 2739 creates a long-term trust fund in the state with a number of important safeguards to support two different needs for water agencies. The first being water bill assistance for low-income households. This is in conjunction with the next bill on our agenda that I'll talk about, and this would be through what's called the Water Rate Assistance Fund. This would be administered by the State Water Board. And then the second part there is grants for water systems for infrastructure improvements through the establishment of a Community Affordability Assistance Fund, which would be administered by the Department of Water Resources. The trust fund would generate ongoing investment income to fund both programs over time. So the intent of the bill is really to set up a funding source to help customers afford their water bills and to help utilities avoid passing costs onto ratepayers by funding critical infrastructure upgrades. So AB 2739 could benefit EBMUD's Customer Assistance Program and the potential expansion of CAP eligibility and future growth of the program. It also creates the necessary mechanism and protections for funding both infrastructure grants and rate assistance into the future.
Okay, great. I know that we also have an information item that's next, right?
Yes.
Regarding, so I wonder if we should go ahead and have a recommendation, a motion by the board, or should we?
President Gomez, I have one more.
Sorry.
One more bill. Yeah, okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, so the companion measure to the one that I just mentioned, the next bill is SB 1125 Minjavar. This one might look familiar to you. It's a reintroduction of a bill that EBMUD had a support and amend position on last year. That was SB 350 by Senator Durazo. This bill is sponsored by three environmental justice groups: Clean Water Action, Community Water Center, and the Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability. So this bill creates a statewide low-income water rate assistance program similar to those for utility discount programs for electricity and gas. So I know the write-up is a little heavy, so the various components of the bill are outlined in pages 7 through 9 of the write-up. But from a high level, what this bill would do is require eligible low-income households to receive either a $20 monthly water bill credit or a 20% discount on water bills. The program would be administered by the State Water Board. The bill requires the usage of third-party providers to assist water systems in things like data matching, if desired by the water system, for the creation of eligible customer lists, call center services, and other types of services. So a water system would have the option to work with a third-party provider to assist with those various services. So with respect to EBMUD's longstanding customer assistance program, the bill protects EBMUD's ability to continue CAP. So the anticipated options that are outlined in page 10 of the legislative report, sort of the options of how this could work, would be that EBMUD could have two different programs. So EBMUD could continue to administer CAP with no oversight by the State Water Board. And then we would also be responsible for administering bill credits per this bill's program to a list of eligible customers that are generated by the third-party provider. So under this scenario, a customer could be eligible for both the program and EBMUD's customer assistance program and thus receive both benefits. Or the other option there is to do one program. And that would be, EBMUD could request that the State Water Board allocate funds for the program to CAP by entering into an MOU with the State Water Board that would describe the parameters, eligibility criteria, and the enrollment of CAP. So funding would be used then to supplement our customer assistance program. So, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Discussion by my fellow board members. Any questions, comments? Director Young?
So whether we do, assuming, I mean, I'm totally all in support of both bills, but in terms of how 1125 would interact with the CAP program, so are you saying that if somebody was in both, they'd get the 50% water credit and another $20 or 20%, additive to that, or?
Yes, if that's the option, is to pursue that
So the
path
board,
where-
but that would be up to the board to
Yes.
decide how to
Yes.
administer. And then if we integrated it,
Yes,
and we did the CAP program separately, it would, as it's proposed now, the money from the state would flow into the CAP program, and then we would still just administer it to our CAP customers. What about the other folks that are, not covered currently by CAP? How, as it's proposed, how would that work?
yes. So Director Young, I envision that as sort of enrollment into all one program, and then we would negotiate what that program looks like with an MOU with the State Water Board. So we could retain many of the features of our existing program and then just use the state funding to supplement that. We would be required to enroll more people.
Okay, so we'd bring in everybody that's eligible under the state bill,
Yes.
but we'd decide how to allocate our funding
Yes,
among that
Yes.
group. So it could mean, we'd have to consider changes to our CAP program in order to figure out what's the right thing to do with this much expanded group of customers.
Yes.
Basically, okay.
Got it. Thank you, Director Young. And other comments, Director Katz?
How much larger is the expanded eligibility under 1153 compared to our current CAP program?
yeah, so I believe our current CAP program is close to 11,500 people. I believe Andrew's team did some rough estimates a few years ago that expansion, or that 11,000 people it represents about 1/3 of eligible low-income ratepayers within our service territory. I hope I'm getting that right, Andrew. Okay. So you could see that we could be increasing almost threefold if everyone in the district who's low income were enrolled.
If they were a customer of record.
If they were a
as
customer,
well.
exactly.
But just in terms of the proportion of besides the difficulty of adjusting for who's customer of record or not, just the eligibility formula based on income threshold between the two.
Yeah.
What is the
Good
percentage
question,
increase?
Director Katz. So the bill right now uses a threshold of 200% of the federal poverty level. However, it does say that if you have a local customer assistance program, you can go above or beyond the thresholds that are in the bill, which is what we're currently doing in our customer assistance program. So that would be something we could negotiate through this MOU with the State Water Board if we chose that particular option.
Yeah, it seems like our program is already
Is more generous.
expansive.
Yes.
And this threshold wouldn't actually mandate higher coverage based on what
Right.
you're saying.
Right, but potentially more customers to be enrolled through the care data matching.
I see, yeah.
Yes.
I think at one point, I believe that the district was already using care eligibility as an automatic qualifier, but maybe we weren't doing actual data matching, and that's the
Yeah.
the new opportunity to reach new customers.
I may have to turn to Andrew. I know at one point we were using LIWOP eligibility as potential eligibility for our customer assistance program.
Thank you, Director Katz. Yeah, Andrew?
Yes, there was, at one point, we did use care data as part of the eligibility requirements because our eligibility requirement is above that, so that threshold. So if people qualify for care, of course, obviously they would qualify for our program.
Director Chan?
Since we're going to be enrolling more people, then I'm just wondering, are there scenarios where the amount of assistance people receive will go down?
So great question. Thank you, Director Chan. I think that's a great question. So it depends how much assistance would be provided through the state for the program, and then, crunching those numbers with how many people we'd have to enroll and whether the board would decide to keep the current benefit of, 50% off water bills and whatnot. So I think that's for a future conversation, most likely.
And is this something, I would hope that you could come back and report on that later.
I'd be happy to, yes.
Thank you.
Director Lewis and then Director Odie.
I actually had the same question. I was wondering about the potential impact if we increase the number of people available for assistance. So I look forward to hearing more information about the potential impacts. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Odie.
I was just curious if there was a price tag assigned to this, because it's on suspense, right?
Yeah, I don't remember offhand. I know it's several $1 million. I think it's,
I mean,
yeah.
it's nice that we're advocating and supporting it, but,
Yes.
the odds of this one getting through.
Yeah, so I should mention that the two measures are companion measures, right? And they're intended really to, one is to set up how the program would function, and the other one is to set up the state mechanism for funding. And I think the thought there is, and I talked about this a little bit this morning in Ledge HR, is under a different administration in a different fiscal situation, the EJ groups and the water agencies would come back to try and get general fund to create the funding for obviously both bills.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? Okay.
No, the thing that I would say is that after, I don't know if it'll get through suspense or not. Nobody ever knows whether something's going to move. It's not, it's a political decision. It's nice to see the water agencies and the NGOs together on board and to see no opposition to this, which is a major difference from previous years. And hat tip to EBMUD for sticking with, especially you. I've heard from several people have been instrumental in moving this forward. That said, we have work to do to figure out how to manage this. The staff will bring ideas and suggestions, but bottom line, it's on us to figure out what will be on us to figure out what to do with this. And it's going to be a trickle, not a windfall of funds. So as we figure out how to enroll and help folks who are probably legitimately struggling because they're at a less financial capacity than the people that are already in our CAP program, who have the benefit of information to know that there is a CAP program and that they applied for it. So, I think it'll be a challenge for us, but I'm looking forward to it and figuring out, how to proceed in a way that best benefits the tens of thousands of customers that are struggling every other month to figure out whether to pay this one or the next one.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Young. So do we have any public comment on this item, Madam Secretary?
No additional public comment?
Okay. So for now, I will entertain a motion, and then we'll go on to the other report. So I'd entertain a motion to consider supporting AB 2513, AB 2739, SB 1125.
So moved.
Moved by Director Smith,
Second.
seconded by, you guys are on time. I'll do Director Lewis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for being our champion fighting for these things. And next, we will receive information on wildfire preparedness and emergency response legislation.
So there's an informational item in the end of the legislative report on wildfire preparedness and emergency response. For this info item, we were looking at bills with nexus to district operations. So the first bill there is AB 2013 Bennett. This would have imposed very extensive wildfire preparedness requirements on water systems. I say would have because the bill failed in committee a few weeks ago amid concerns that it was too prescriptive and burdensome, and so it failed passage in the Emergency Management Committee in the Assembly. The next bill there is SB 1153 Caballero regarding wildfire response planning. So this is Aqua's sponsored bill that would require water suppliers in very high fire and very high fire hazard severity zones to include wildfire-specific response procedures and emergency plans. It also contains language that would help in the role of water systems in firefighting and what systems are and aren't designed for. That bill is on the suspense file and awaiting action potentially Thursday this week. And then the final bill is SB 1001 Archuleta. So this bill would require the Office of Emergency Services to issue disaster area access credentials at the request of local agencies, public utilities, or mutual water companies. This is in response to some water agencies in Southern California having difficulty accessing facilities after wildfires. So the bill also clarifies that an individual who holds a valid ID card issued by a local agency, public utility, or mutual water company can enter a closed disaster area unless a peace officer deems it unsafe or would interfere with disaster response. So, and that's also a Senate approbe suspense candidate. So we continue to track this subject matter, and we'll bring updates as relevant to the board. And that's the end of my presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for those reports. And again, thanks for tracking all this important legislation.
Excuse me, President Gomez. President Gomez?
Yes.
Can you just confirm the second on?
Director Lewis.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to move on to agenda items 8.1 and 8.2, which is to file a report and set a public hearing for the water and wastewater schedules and rates and charges, capacity charges, and other fees not subject to Prop 218 for fiscal year 2027. And we will get a presentation from Phoebe Groh.
Great. Good afternoon, directors, President Gomez. And yes, this is the time of year when we ask you to file the report with the long name, report and recommendation of the general manager, revisions to water, wastewater schedules of rates and charges, capacity charges, and other fees not subject to Prop 218. And so we're going to hereafter refer to that as the GM rate report, and that also includes our schedules of rates and charges. So you'll see those with the proposed revisions in the report. Those schedules are the ones that end up in various places, but most publicly on our website, ebmud.com/rates. And as we've discussed before, most significantly in our February workshop, we're proposing significant changes to our system capacity charges and our wastewater capacity charges that reflect the recently completed SCC and WCC studies. Just a couple notes here before we move on. We're changing the name of the wastewater capacity fee as part of this change, and it's becoming the wastewater capacity charge. That's because it's a parallel charge to the system capacity charge, and that name is a bit more in line with the pertinent government code. And you'll find those studies in the report as appendices, the studies having been prepared by our independent rate consultant. This list just shows all the schedules that are proposed for revision and included in the report. We are rescinding one, or recommending for rescission one of the schedules. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. And the subsequent slides will go into some more detail about the SCC and WC proposed revisions. These slides will look sort of familiar because we went through them, or very similar versions of them, in our February workshop. But just as a reminder, the fundamental concept of a capacity charge is we take a look at our entire system, the system that a new customer or a customer expanding their use of the system would be buying into. We put a valuation on the system. We understand the total system capacity. If we're thinking of this as a pie, where this is the cost of the pie, the total number of slices in the pie, and then we identify the cost of each slice of the pie. And that's our capacity charge. So we've done system capacity charges for a long time, since 1983, or really since 1978. We'll go through a little bit of that history later. And the way we've done it in recent years, at least, is a look at a consumption-based look. So we understand our total system capacity as the total consumption throughout the system, which is related to the total production of the system. And then the way we would understand an individual's piece of that capacity is their average annual demand. And that resulted, at least in the system that we have right now, in a fairly complex schedule for meters up to 1.5 inches with 3 different regions throughout our water service area, and then custom calculations for the larger meters over 1.5 inches. Under our proposed approach, which is an effort at streamlining, we take a look at total system capacity in terms of meter capacity, and then of individual, each customer's capacity in terms of the meter that is serving their property, their building. And so that meter's capacity is defined by engineering standards. Really, what we're referencing is a American water, an AWWA standard. This slide we would have seen before, but these are the exact numbers showing the comparison of a few selected applicants. It's too complicated to show you everyone because we have one at a complicated schedule right now, and 2, a really wide variety of applicants that come through and end up paying these charges. So just as a few examples, the single-family applicant, we have, again, the 3 regions currently, so there's 3 different prices there, and that's moving to the one price for, and this is a 1-inch meter. And we'll look at the whole schedule on the next slide. If we looked at an apartment building, this would be a 100-dwelling apartment building, which is a reasonably typical size that we see coming through, served here by a 4-inch meter, which would also be fairly typical. You have this variety shown here of the different SCCs that would be paid by such an applicant, and those are based on a per dwelling unit price that we have in the current schedule. And that's moving over in this new approach and the streamlined approach to a price that is just reflective of the meter size, and we'll see that on the next slide. Same sort of thing for the, or not quite the same. For a large commercial or industrial customer, we're looking at their estimated demands. So that's represented on this slide as the 25,000 gallons per day. And that these would represent these would be those custom calculations that I was referencing earlier. And that would instead move to just being based on their meter size. Here, what's shown is a 4-inch meter. So that ends up being the same price as shown above for the sample apartment building. This is the full schedule that's now shown in Schedule J in the proposed Schedule J in the GM rate report. This is very similar to a slide that we saw in the February workshop, but now with the exact numbers as proposed. The only nuance here that I think we did also go over previously is that for all residential meters, 1-inch and smaller, they're charged at the 5/8 inch rate. And the reason for this is that nearly all new build homes will get a 1-inch meter, but the reason they're getting that 1-inch meter is for dual service. Dual service meaning serving their domestic needs, but also having enough capacity for fire sprinklers, which are of course very seldom used. But most of these homes, like most of the housing stock or single-family homes existing in the service area, their domestic demands could be served by a 5-inch meter. So as a simplification, we recommend that all single-family homes pay the 5-inch meter cost. This is a slide you haven't seen before, but this is representing information that was presented in an info memo following up from questions from our February workshop. So this is showing for a 3-year period, the SCCs paid, the single-family SCCs paid within Region 1. And so when we looked at the previous slide, Region 1 is the instance here in the single-family category where the SCC goes up, the other ones go down, based on the new methodology. And so there's, in Region 1, what we see is mostly infill development. Sometimes this would be, sometimes a vacant lot, sometimes a lot split where one lot is made into two and a new home is built on that second half. And then a few instances of larger developments, 120 home development in San Pablo and a 95 home development in Richmond. And this is, again, is over a 3-year period. As just a point of comparison, over the same 3-year period, we estimate there were about 6,000 multifamily units built that also paid SCCs. Similar story on the wastewater capacity charge side. This is comparing the same types of applicants and modest increase on the single family side and just a different methodology then for the other types of applicants we'd see here. The apartment building sample that we have here with 100 dwellings, that was a per dwelling unit cost previously, so that's what's shown there in the calculation, and now it is based entirely on the meter size, so the $113,000 price you'd see there is what corresponds to a 4-inch meter. And again, on the commercial industrial example, there was a flow and strength custom calculation for such a customer, and now it would move over to being simply a charge based on their meter size. This should show that the title's a little off here, but this is the proposed wastewater capacity charges for all those different meter size, the same streamlining and simplification for residential meters 1 inch and under. And this is represented in wastewater Schedule G in the GM rate report. And then just in summary, reasons for recommending this new approach is moving towards a much more straightforward rate schedule for both the system capacity charges and the wastewater capacity charges that we think will be easier for applicants to understand and easier for our staff to implement. And this includes a simplified approach for accessory dwelling units, and that's just something that sort of naturally flows out of this methodology, because in this methodology, we're looking only at the meter size. So a typical ADU construction would be you have an existing home and a new ADU is built in the backyard. As long as, and that existing home, it might have a 5/8 meter, it might have a 1-inch meter, but from an SCC point of view, usually both of those facilities, both of those buildings can be served on a 1-inch meter, and so that would they would have effectively no SCC charge associated with the construction of that ADU. More broadly, we feel this approach is well suited to our mature water and wastewater systems that are experiencing just gradual growth at this point. And we discussed in more detail at the workshop that there are revenue impacts to this. We do expect a decrease in our SCC and wastewater capacity charge revenues, but we do think those are manageable within the context of our long-range financial plan. So moving past the SCC and WCC charges, but in sort of the similar framework, as part of the GM rate report, you'll see that we're proposing the rescission of Schedule H. This is the standard participation charge. So this is a capacity-like charge that we instituted first in 1978, but then it was replaced in 1983 by the SCC. At the time, there were some applications in process, so we allowed those types of applicants to pay either charge, depending, they could choose, and they would usually just choose whichever was cheaper. And that 40 years later, that time, we believe, can conclude. Other schedules that had new charges added to them, as part of Schedule C, we have a new tree trimming and removal charge. So this is in circumstances where a neighbor to an EBMUD facility requests to have trees trimmed or removed, and this is to recover district costs associated with administering that. And this, of course, would only be done in circumstances where the tree trimming or removal would otherwise be allowed. Water main extension charges, this is as, we update these every year to reflect district costs, but it's a more significant update this time around, including updating the types of pipe materials that we currently use. Schedule C, the wastewater department has wastewater Schedule C, wastewater department has instituted a new wastewater discharge type of wastewater discharge permit that is applicable to whole industry types, and that's like a simplification or streamlining step on their part, and there's a new then corresponding fee associated with that. Wastewater department testing fees, our lab added a fee for biochemical oxygen demand, and the rec fees, there's some new fees there for boat slips and campsites associated with the concurrent with mobile home space rental. And those fees were reviewed by the Comanche Regional Park Advisory Board back in March. Next steps, so we're here today to file the GM rate report and set a public hearing. Next up will be, I'll be back in front of you along with some other friends from the Finance Department on May 26th for the mid-cycle budget update workshop. We'll see some similar slides there, but there's no action to be taken at that workshop. The next board action would be on June 9th. Apologies, that's the wrong date. But that's our public hearing and board consideration of our non-Prop 218 rates, fees, and charges. And after that, the next board meeting, June 23rd, we have the consideration of revisions to the district's regulations governing water service. These have often gone together at that first meeting in June. We've separated them this year for various reasons, but it just made sense sequentially to get the approval for the rates and charges first, and then 2 weeks later, ask for your approval on the regulations that help us implement them. Much of these changes to the regulations would be reflective of the changes that we're making to the capacity charges. And finally, assuming that the board approves, those rates and charges would be effective. And again, these are the non-Prop 218 charges. Prop 218 is already approved for FY27, but July 1, these FY27 non-Prop 218 rates and charges would become effective. Okay, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Phoebe. All right, we'll begin our board comments with Director Lewis.
So let me apologize up front. I'm going to violate a few of my rules. I hope I try to be brief. I certainly always appreciate staff and the work they do and their guidance. I have serious and significant problems with the proposed SEC changes, and I've identified those. I've talked with staff, and I see you've added some additional slides. I have to say that, and I believe it's important to really look for streamlining, but I don't see raising rates or raising costs for certain people for convenience for us, and I'm afraid that's what's happening here. I also think it's really important that people be treated fairly and be treated the same and with transparency. But to the extent that these changes, the only folks with regard to building new single-family units who are looking at a $5,646 increase are people in my ward, my district, and basically in Oakland. And I don't think that I can sit here and support that. And I also don't believe that I can't not call this out publicly. I appreciate the thoughts that have gone into it, but the responses I've received, including the new slide that says we only have a few new units that are being built, okay. But I don't care if it's 1, 2, or 3. To me, it's very important. I believe it's always previously been important to support single-family building. That helps with usually folks with higher education, greater income, more than one person in the family, and ownership. I also think that this particular change by charging single-family homes in Oakland as opposed to every other district area in East Bay MUD doesn't affect affordability or availability. It only costs almost $6,000 more if someone wants to build in Oakland. I also feel like here's an opportunity, we were talking about streamlining, and we're actually gonna leave money on the table. So we're gonna receive less than we are under the current, and I will acknowledge, a little more convoluted system. But then we turn around on the last page and talk about additional rates, charges, and fees to make up additional funds. Bottom line, I could go on and on and on. Ask me how I really feel. But I think you get my shift about this, and I think it's totally inappropriate. I don't know how we fix it. I would ask, and I'm asking my board members, I know I'm only one vote, I know this, but it's a big deal. It's a lot of people in Oakland. That we either hold off and fix this, or we remove it from the proposed changes in these proposed rates and charges. Thank you so much for listening to my rant.
And maybe President Gomez, just a few clarifying, and I know Director Lewis, we've talked about this at length. The Region 1 covers more than just Oakland, and I think you're
Right,
aware of that.
yes.
The other thing too is we're not changing any other rates and fees to make up for the lost revenue. So it is what it is, just based on the normal increases. So there's no adjustment. These changes in these charges is going to result in a reduction, and we're not increasing something to make up that difference. So just want
But you would agree, by not doing this, we're not costing the East Bay MUD any additional funds unless you want to put a dollar amount to, it's more convenient to do this. And I'd also say, even if you're building an ADU, most builders can figure out what the charge is, and they've been doing so all along.
and then just the last piece to address, I'm trying to remember now, that you raised. I can't think of it right now, but if I do, I'll bring it up.
Director Odie?
I had one quick question. I mean, is there any reason why we cannot treat, say, Region 3 and Region 1 different? I mean, is
Yeah,
there?
that was it. Yeah, so we cannot, the methodology is applied uniformly across all. So there's no ability to say we're going to not charge Region 1 or reduce Region 1, but not the other regions. That would not be complying with the law that we have to follow.
So does that mean we're doing it wrong now, or is that
No.
not something you want to say?
The existing methodology looks at consumption, and then under the new methodology, we're looking at meter capacity. So it's just a different way to understand capacity, and a 1-inch meter in West Oakland is not any different than a 1-inch meter in Walnut Creek.
Yeah, but you
But the
can't
difference-
mix and match methodologies.
But the difference now becomes it costs more to make the same construction in Oakland than in Lafayette.
So we could choose a different methodology that would still allow us to have a different rate in 1 and 3.
Well, we have the methodology we have right now, which you know what the costs are, and we're proposing a simplified, more streamlined methodology based on the meter capacity.
Yeah, I understand that, but, I mean, I have some concern, maybe different ones than my colleague, but, I mean, if you, first of all of Ward 5 is in the green area, so everyone that I'm representing is going to be in the green area and have that increase, although there are very few single-family homes. My concern is if you compare, the income level and the property value in Region 1 versus Region 3, you are asking the green region to take even a bigger burden when their income levels and property values won't support that, and you're asking the yellow region, where they do support that, to have their burden reduced, and to me, that's an equity issue. I mean, it's not, to me, most of Ward 5 is going to be multifamily anyway, and I like that part of it, but there's an equity issue that I'm just not comfortable with, and I just wonder if there's any way we can address that.
Not from the methodology we picked, and I think what Phoebe also shared, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, if we look at the development that's actually happening both in the past and is happening forward, was it, in the last 3 years, was it 6,000?
6,000.
So we had 6,000 multifamily units that are being developed. So the vast majority of the development in the area is infill multifamily.
I understand that, and I like that, but So, but we could change the methodology.
Compared to 166.
We can't, there's no way when we look at the methodology to change it for one group over another and have, that we could defend.
It's just that the impact is significantly different for one group.
So let's continue our board discussion for now.
Okay,
Director
thank you.
Katz?
Thank you.
Yeah, that, having been very well-informed about the prior system for a long time, I took a good deal of time to understand how this proposed system works and came around to appreciating it, particularly because of the benefits for customers who are seeking to install an ADU but get caught with a surprise SCC, and that's a big burden on single-family property owners who are seeking to engage in one of the most encouraged types of housing from the perspective of our local government partners or state housing advocate partners. And that's one of the most compelling reasons to support the change. But one of my initial misgivings about the proposal was just the removal of the water demand as a factor. I felt like having maximum incentives across the agency for conservation is very important for how we achieve our values as a district to encourage conservation. But ultimately, I understand that we are most effective at conservation when we're doing things that provide services to customers or looking at the overall effect of our marketing and communications with customers. We know that our cost-driven rates have an effect on its own, and the development fee isn't really the driver of conservation. It's a proxy for cost recovery, and ultimately what's challenging about the new formula is the denominator is just fixed as the cost of the system, and we just can't change that. We can't create a fictional adjusted higher cost of the system, and that's why all the numbers seem to take a big downturn, except for those single-family homes. We're a very built-out service area. There's really just a handful of single-family homes compared to the plethora of ADUs that we expect and want to see created, and the multifamily housing that we expect to see created. So overall, I think the development community comes out much further ahead in terms of fee indemnity at the time of deposit. But I do think that the benefit for ordinary consumers, ordinary single-family homeowners seeking to develop ADUs is really compelling here. So that's why I'll be voting for it.
Thank you.
I'm open to other ways of reimagining the formula, but that was my thought process for why I'm accepting what's in front of us.
Thank you, Director Katz. Any other board comments or questions? Yeah, Director Young?
Yeah, I have some questions about the chart, just to help my understanding and my comments. This chart on page 4 of the follow-up menu memo. So, so as I read this, give folks a chance to, it's not in the presentation, it's from the info memo that we got. It's part of the board packet. So in terms of looking at this single-family residential system capacity charges, so if you take out the 100, the multifamily, well, must be an HOA, right, with separate meters, I'm guessing, the things that were built in Richmond and San Pablo, is that right?
I would guess the San Pablo one has an HOA. I'm not sure about the Richmond one.
Okay. I think it says on the chart that it was on the map, it's a 90-unit or 95-home development.
Yeah.
Right. So starting point, developer, in those, a developer is paying that SCC charge versus somebody that wants to build a house on an infill lot. So if the house on the infill lot, if on this first column where it says 0 and SCC paid, credit equals SCC owed, that's 92. It's like the vast majority of single-family homes built during this period
didn't end up paying any SCC charge. Is that what that means?
Well, if you,
So on that table, I think you have it correct, Director Young. So we broke it into people where there were developments where no SCC was paid. So across the board, 92 paid no additional SCC.
And then 21 had only a partial of that night, of the money that they're paying
They
now.
received a credit.
And those individuals would continue not to have an SCC charge. If those homes were being built under the proposed schedule, they would also not have an SCC, is that correct?
Well, for those individual, I mean, I'd have to look, but that would depend on the meter size that they would go to. So if they stay within that
But why
range.
did they get a credit under the current system?
so a typical credit situation would be if you have a home on a parcel and that you do a tear down and you rebuild a whole new home. And in building that new home, you probably need to install fire sprinklers. And probably the old home that got torn down was a 5/8" meter. And so then you would need to come to EBMUD and do your water service application, and we would probably tell you, and the fire marshal would probably tell you, you need a 1" meter. But if your domestic demands can be served by the 5/8" meter, under our current framework, we're not going to charge you for an SC, or even a 3/4" meter, actually. We're not going to charge you an SCC. We will charge you installation charges for the physical work to install.
Right, a new
the
meter.
And so that would be the no SCC paid, and then the partial SCC paid would be usually these, sometimes an ADU situation and sometimes a larger home that has pretty high domestic demands where their credit is lower than the SCC that they would have paid if it was like an entirely new build.
And that's
So
one
it
where
sounds like under the new system, they also would not be, I mean, if your house burns down and your water service is destroyed along with your house burning down, you have to, I mean, I'm not talking about the tear down, but the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you're not gonna get an SCC charge because you actually were there or somebody was there, right? Might not be the same customer.
And because of that streamlining with all 1" meters, all residential 1" meters pay the same price, and that being the 5/8" meter price. I
Okay.
think almost all of them in that partial SCC column would go away. They would pay no.
Okay, so then there's really, it really is a handful, if you exclude those developments that were developers, not just somebody, building and saying, oh, I can build here. It's like, actually, Joey, the house that went in across the street from Joey, and took down the oak tree. So it seems to me that it is, I mean, I appreciate Director Lewis's concern, and I kind of did love our demand-based SCC, but it is, complicated, and this does seem, like it does streamline the process, and I agree with Director Katz that conservation best happens with the end user, not the developer's gonna, under the old system, gotta pay, whatever. It has nothing to do whether they put in a water efficient system or not in the units they're building. So, I'm prepared to support this direction, and in the long run, think it's appropriate, and there will be some, dislocational equity, or I don't know what the right word is, but it is a really small number of, probably, I mean, there might not be any applicants. I mean, it might be 5, I don't know what it'll be, but it, it seems like it is, just, it is what it is, so I'm ready to support the increase. I wish it was I wish it
everybody was at 13,000 or whatever it is, but the math doesn't work, so.
Thank you, Director Young. Did I hear you say that you move it, or are we still, no? Okay, so any other thoughts or comments from directors? I will just say that from where I sit, it seems that there is a net benefit. Given where we are as a water system, we are a mature water system that is mostly developed. And the kind of development overwhelmingly that is going to happen in the Bay moving forward will be these multifamily housing units, which are the ones that are sorely needed. So I'm also inclined to support the proposal for this new way of looking at our capacity charges. And I do want to hear from Director Lewis some more.
I have a question, I guess. And, and I've already said I agree generally with this, but frankly, the multi-unit folks are not affected. It's a single family. So I'm going to ask my question to the general counsel, I guess. What's an appropriate form? It's after the motion is brought to the board. If I wanted to make a motion to remove the SEC proposed changes only as it relates to the single-family metering, is that possible? That we leave that the same and come back to, or what's the proper form for me to make the motion?
You're asking Sturgis.
I'm saying that we not vote on that part today. So 2 questions. One, can I say that we just not vote on that part as it relates to single-family metering?
I think you can create a record that you abstain from the vote on that specific part.
No, I don't want to abstain. I want to bring a motion to remove that from our vote. We're getting ready to vote on a proposed non-proposition 218 rates and charges. That's part of the current proposal. So I'm looking to move to remove that from what the board votes on today.
So maybe there would be no way to remove just the single-family Region 1 or any of the single families from it. I mean, if the board wants to not consider the change to the SECs and the wastewater capacity charges, they could just forego the entire change and we stick with the current method. That's a possibility, but you cannot just remove one aspect of the charge.
All right, then what would be the proper form? Do I wait till the motion's made and then ask that just that part with the SEC changes be removed from the vote? Or I do that before the vote is presented to the board?
So, as I understand it, we wouldn't be able to remove the SCCs only from consideration because that would require a completely different structure to be brought to.
No, just what you're saying, you can't
Yeah, we've got a
remove
bunch
just
of
a
other
particular
stuff.
aspect of the SEC, but if she wants to, you can say, I don't want to consider the changes to SEC and the wastewater capacity charge at all.
Yes, you can move to,
When
So-
should I make that motion?
well, that's unclear. I think you,
Yeah.
the motion to adopt, I don't know if that's an amendment to the
There's no
original motion
on
that's
the-
being proposed.
There's no motion currently on the
yet.
floor. There's
You
no
can make the
motion on
motion.
Just looking ahead, if a motion is made to adopt, I don't know if you could then, that would be an amendment to the motion.
So I wait till the
I
motion's
think you would-
made and then ask?
I think you
Well,
would
I-
move
may I
first
suggest that-
to, I'm sorry, I think you would move first to simply
Okay.
not make any changes to the SEC.
I'd like to move that we not consider making changes to Schedule J or the system capacity charges at this point in time.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Sure.
We have a motion and a second. And let's do a voice vote.
Well, can I have, we have a
Oh,
motion and a second, we
so
need discussion.
Yes, we need discussion.
So a question that I have is, were we to defer doing this, what would be the options that we would, we're just tabling it, or is there something that staff would propose to go back and rejigger the proposal in some way?
Yeah, and I just want to remind the board that today's action isn't to actually vote on changes to the charges. It's just to file the recommended,
Yeah, but what gets filed? I mean,
what
if they
gets
don't want
filed. for
So
consideration.
if they don't want to file those
Yeah.
charges, so I would
Right, so if we
say,
didn't file them, the next opportunity to do so would be next
mean,
year?
well, technically you could do it anytime, but the reality is we usually do it, at the end of the fiscal year when we make the changes, so it would take effect at the beginning of a fiscal year. I would say, though, just given, how I know how all this is put together, your options are, the methodology, is going to fall within just one of two categories, what we have currently and what we're proposing right now. There is no kind of methodology, because we've thought about this long and hard, there's no methodology to get at,
Well, I've actually asked to meet with you and meet with staff to continue to pursue this, so I take some umbrage at that, and I would hope, and I'm trying to be flexible in dealing with, how we might handle this, but you seem to have some time pressure. But again, I do feel strongly that I need to represent the folks that are potentially impacted, and it might be more than 5.
So I would say, if you don't want to consider the changes for the system capacity charges and the wastewater capacity charges this time, we'll take it up again next year, and the current charges will remain for all of fiscal year '27.
And the other question I have is maybe a question for our legislative staff, is how likely or unlikely between now and the end of the next fiscal year, when we would consider this again, that the legislature will decide for us? Decide what?
Kathy,
I mean, I know this is something that, one of the things that's under discussion in Sacramento.
Good afternoon, President Gomez, members of the board. This has been a topic of discussion in the last year, but there's nothing currently in the legislature that I'm aware of that is looking to make changes to SECs.
Okay, so nothing's going to be done to us between now and the end of the next fiscal year. So there's no external timeline other than annoyed developers who would like to see this change happen. Is that accurate?
There is no legislation this year. There could be something introduced next year, but
Yeah, but it wouldn't take
effect before.
Yeah, it wouldn't take effect before our next fiscal year.
Unless there was some urgency, but I don't envision that.
Yeah. So it's really the development community builders that might be disappointed if we didn't take action today. It won't be passing the savings on to individual units anyway. Well, except,
Motion and a second for now. We have some more discussion, Director Odie.
And so is it, I wasn't clear on, can we have one methodology for single family and a different methodology?
can't.
Okay,
No, we're
so,
setting the whole thing on meter size now.
okay.
So, and I just want to be clear, because I think there was the motion that should be made, the action for consideration is filing the report and recommendation. And then the next action will be setting a hearing date. And following that hearing, the board will actually vote on whether or not to adopt the recommended changes or not. So you can vote to file the report and recommendation today and defer the decision on the actual changes to the SECs until the June 9th hearing, if you want more time to think about it.
But practically speaking, we need to know today how the board wants to go, because, by the time we get to May and, end of May and June, like, we don't have time to make changes. So we need to know if the board has interest now or not to make changes to the SECs and the wastewater capacity charges.
I guess my dilemma is I am strongly in favor of the multifamily change, but not on the single-family side. And if there's no way to reconcile that, I'll just have to pick which one is most important.
Thank you, Director Odie. I hear, perhaps we want to hear from Sophia, and then I'll hear from you, Director Katz.
Yeah, I don't know if this will be helpful or not, but I just thought that I would try to kind of share maybe a model to explain why it's hard to pick it apart. So, I just came up with this on a fly, so, not necessarily, it may or may not work for everyone, but so if you thought about a restaurant and you kind of were deciding, am I going to have an a la carte restaurant, where I can, pick and choose. So in other words, how much water, each one of the regions is using, or I'm going to have a prefix. So you kind of pick the methodology, and then everything kind of falls out from the methodology. And so that's why, so you can't, sort of say, okay, but I want some of the a la carte and some of the prefix in the way that this works, kind of from a legal perspective, to make sure that we're doing this kind of under the law and in kind of like a fair and equitable way. We looked at a bunch of different methodologies. The one that we have now and the one that we're proposing, we think are both, fair and defensible. Nobody is being overcharged or undercharged, but it is a prefix in this new kind of approach that we're looking at. Of course, should we come back next year and there's no problem with that, we can consider sort of, what other choices we might have before us. Of course, there's, we've talked about, sort of how capacity fees fit into rates and charges and, kind of their role overall with respect to the district finances. And so potentially over the next year, we can revisit all of that as well. Anyway, just in case that's helpful to the public or to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Director Lewis, some more words.
So again, I just want to say thank you for indulging me and explaining this. I am phenomenally disappointed in the failure to look at the optics of what was proposed. I have the utmost confidence that staff can actually go back and do a better job because I've worked with them and you guys are phenomenal. I'm disappointed in this.
Okay, thank you. So as it stands, we do have a motion that would remove the capacity charges from the filing of this report. And we do have a second, but we have not had a voice vote on this. Do we have a question?
Yeah, okay. I thought the motion that was on the floor was to just delay this whole issue to deal with this issue next year.
We're
So-
tabling it.
Just table it to next year, is that?
Just the SCC.
Yeah, just the capacity charges
the capacity.
piece. So in theory, if the board agreed, it sounds like for this motion to be able to be voted on, we would need to know if indeed we could file a report for everything else except the capacity charges.
For
But
those changes, I mean, we would still update the SEC, I mean, if you have the old methodology, we would update it based on the normal increases that we receive, but we would use the existing methodology that we're using right now.
We wouldn't use the new schedule.
We would update the numbers, but it wouldn't be based on a new methodology.
So that's my understanding of the current motion, which would basically file the report and we would still set the public hearing, at which point in June, we as a board would make a decision. But the motion was to file it with basically the current capacity charges versus the new proposed capacity charges.
Well, they would be
Method-
With
modified based
updated
on-
methodology, without the new methodology. So that's my understanding of what's on right now for us to do a voice vote. Do we want any further discussion real quick?
Just clarification. So there will still be Schedule J in the Prop 218, non-Prop 218 charges, right, that are filed. They will be based on the current methodology, which will result likely in some changes to those numbers based on the complicated formula that's used to establish them now.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. If this motion
if you go.
passes, we'll still be voting on
still have
Schedule
to
J.
vote on this.
It just will be based on the current methodology, not the new methodology. If we
Yes.
That's fine.
That
That's fine.
is-
Steve, I mean, it would be, if we did, it would be like every other year we've done it. We'd bring all the schedules with the updates. It's just the proposal that we had was with a new methodology. We would still bring the updated schedule.
Well, as an example, so we completed an SEC study in 2021, and then that had some COVID impacts, and there were the 2 years before we completed that study, we left the SEC charges in place, and we didn't change them based on the sort of annual methodology. So I guess that could be another, if we're not moving forward with the proposal, there's perhaps an option to just
I guess what I'm saying is the numbers, I mean, in the current methodology, the actual numbers, the cost, those can change, we bring back, but the methodology doesn't change. Or we could bring back this current methodology. I mean, it depends on how this motion goes. We update the numbers every year.
We update the numbers every
We update
year.
the SEC. So I'm saying
Yeah.
is, we would still bring everything to all the schedules to the board for consideration. We'd just be using the current methodology.
We could, or we
And
could.
that's what the motion's on, that's being considered right now.
Yes, that's the current motion.
That's the motion on the table.
We won't update.
I think if we
Schedule
didn't
J.
move forward with the proposal, we would want to consider if we left FY '26 in place or if we did the update in the typical way to create FY '27 charges under the current methodology.
I guess what I'm saying is, regardless, we are going to be bringing the schedule to the board, just using existing methodology. Whether we change the numbers or not, they have to consider the changes to the schedules.
I guess,
It may result in no change if you want, but the schedule will still be considered by the board.
The one wrinkle is that it may need to be filed at the next meeting, and so this piece may have a little bit of a delay.
Could
Does
you
that make
say that
sense?
again, Robbie?
We
I
need to
can't
file
hear
it
you.
again.
It may need to be filed at the next meeting, so that one. piece
Understood,
would-
understood.
Okay,
Okay.
wouldn't be on the
So
exact
that
same.
won't, but the update won't be filed with it. That's my motion, I believe. Is
Any
that
more
your
clarity?
understanding,
Do you need any more
Well,
clarity on?
do we have, so it sounds like we're not able to direct for a methodology of filing. We have to actually look at the actual numbers that will be filed for the filing to be effective for a subsequent meeting.
But we
Yeah,
don't have
we would
any
have to-
numbers in front of us.
Yes.
Okay, and when we do elect to file a notice of public hearing, are we able to reserve dual options and choose one of those options at the public hearing? I would rather we identify one before, filing it, but should we not be able to, are we able to file dual options and then make the final decision at the hearing?
I think that's the question for Phoebe and Robbie. If you actually bring, I don't think I think the answer is no, but Robbie and Phoebe, I mean, can we, after we file, what Director Katz asking, can you file dual reports and let the board decide which one they want at a later date?
I understand.
I think the answer is probably no, but
Probably something we'd have to contemplate for the next, probably something we can't know right now, but we don't have 2 reports to file right now anyway, so we would use that little bit of time to figure out the
Yeah.
right way to do it.
Yeah, and rates and charges these don't have to go into effect on July 1,
yeah.
so they could go into
Yeah.
effect
I mean,
on
we have
August 1.
flexibility. It's what we
We've done that
typically
in the
do,
past.
and that's why I said earlier.
So how
But I
about,
would recommend that we remove Schedule J entirely from.
how about if we just see how the motion goes?
Okay,
I would like to call for a vote on the motion as proposed.
I'd like to respond to some, I think this is a pretty significant change from where the discussion started, because we did hear some of these issues raised at the workshop, but I'm not hearing a specific option that we're able to take action on right now. That's what I'm missing. I'm open to hearing what that might look like, but I think we're hearing that the new methodology is not divisible. We haven't found another methodology that is different from the old one, the new one, or a brand-new alternative that I would be open to hearing about, but I think we would just need to deliberate if such could exist. But between the two of them, I think what I'd like to stress is that the single-family home change includes the ADU reform, and that has a big impact on the equity and feasibility for those projects that represent, I think, the majority of our customers of record that pay their bills directly and have an interest. And a delay of up to a year, a shorter delay would have a lesser impact, but a delay of up to a year would send a signal of, don't put your deposit down, don't actually build this project. And I think that we need to be really deliberate before setting up a situation like that.
So I'm hearing, yeah,
Call the
Director.
question.
Well, one more question, comment,
Yeah,
Director Chan.
I just want to be sure, Clifford, that I understand, we cannot take, if we decided to leave this on the table, we can't bring it up for a year.
No, we could bring, I mean, I'm saying what we typically do, but if the board wanted to, we could take it up anytime within the year.
Okay.
I think it would make sense.
So, yeah, Director
Just for clarity,
Smith.
within
the year or within our fiscal year?
At any time.
I mean, it could be anytime, so.
Okay.
Yeah, all right, so in the interest of, I want to make sure that everybody has felt heard, and I think so far I would like to think so. And so let's go ahead and call a vote on the motion on the table.
I need
Yes?
to understand I'm
Motion?
looking at what's in the report.
Yes.
What are we voting on right now?
So let me try to rephrase it and see if I captured it correctly. So it would be a motion to file the report with the capacity charges being what the current methodology is instead of the new methodology, with any potential updates to the numbers, if there are any.
I think probably what might be, I mean, I think what would be easier is, we could either, we could bring the entire, we bring the entire thing back at a later date. But, I think from my perspective, I just need clarity in terms of, I can bring it back, I'm just sharing with you, and I will meet with Director Lewis and we'll go over the methodology, but there's not a lot of flexibility that we have. So I don't want to create this false sense that we're going to come back with something that different than what we have and what we're proposing.
Right, so that's why I think I would just like to go ahead and call a vote, and just to make sure that our secretary understands what the motion is. Yeah, Derek?
Having thought about this, I think the clearest procedure is just to vote up or down on the proposed action to file the report today, as is.
Yeah.
And if that vote does not pass, then you can take that as a,
We could take that as the board is not interested with the new methodology.
and to bring it
That
back
is not
without
my
the
motion, and I have a motion
we
on the
have a
table, and I'm not willing to take that amendment.
So I think we could, because we
Somebody
have a
can make
motion and we have a
substitute
second.
motion. I'll make, just for the purposes of parliamentary procedure, I'll make a substitute motion that we vote up or down accepting the report today.
Okay, so we have a first motion, a second motion, a proposed amendment, a new substitute motion.
No, we don't have a proposed
We have a
amendment.
substitute motion.
We don't have any, the motion on the floor is Valerie's motion with a second, and I'm making a substitute motion to vote to
Up and down.
approve or not the report
As is.
as is.
So do we
And
need a
that we'd
second
have to
on
ta-
this
We have to, yeah, there needs to be a second on the substitute motion.
So we have
And
a
then a
second.
vote on the substitute motion before, and if it prevails, it takes the place of the
Initial motion.
initial motion.
Okay, I think we got
actually,
procedure.
request a point of order on that? This is one of the areas where Sturgis differs from Roberts, and we haven't had a substitute motion in a while.
No, we haven't. I've got to call up my Sturgis cheat sheet.
I think that's the way we've handled it in the past, but I'm happy to be, corrected.
Make sure we're following proper
Technically,
procedure.
under Sturgis, the substitute just takes effect immediately. There's reasonable reasons to do it either way, but just don't want people to not know what they're voting on.
Which means if the motion fails, well, actually it means if the motion fails, then Valerie's motion proceeds, is what it means. And we're back in a less clear.
One moment here.
The other option is to have Director Lewis's motion voted on, and then if it doesn't pass, then bring the other motion forward.
Correct, that's my understanding of.
In the background.
So, do you have a preference?
I think that it may be more expeditious and cleaner if we just did take a vote on the first motion and see if that goes anywhere. And if it doesn't, then I would entertain your motion. Yeah, Director Lewis?
Yeah, look, I think I stated at the very beginning of my comments on one vote, okay? I understand that. That said, I've stated, and I appreciate my colleagues' indulgence in letting me state for the record my concerns and do what I thought was necessary to represent my constituents and the folks in number one. So, you know what? I'm still here to be professional and work with my colleagues, and I appreciate all the thought. I wish, in fact, however, when we started this off, when I raised this issue, that you realized how serious I was going to be about it, and that in the future, you will know when I have serious concerns that I am going to gnaw on this bone. But, you know, I'm one vote. Let's go forward, okay? Thank you.
Okay,
And
so
thank,
does
and
that
thank
mean?
you, all my colleagues, again, for listening.
Yeah.
And staff, please also understand, I have the utmost regard for your work. I just vehemently disagree.
So Director Odie.
I'm one vote too, and I seconded the motion because I thought it was a discussion we needed to have. But I do feel the multifamily changes is more important to me. So I will not be supporting the motion, even though I seconded it.
So just for procedural purposes, before I entertain more comments, so it sounds like would you be willing to withdraw your motion, or would you like us to still go through this voting process?
I don't feel that I can withdraw the motion for
all right.
obvious reasons. And again, let me again say, I hope when staff looks at these things, please think about the optics while you're being convenient. It may not be convenient for us or the people that have to pay the difference.
Okay, thank you, Director Lewis. Director Chan, did you have any other thoughts?
I mean, my only thought is that I would like this to be as procedurally clean as possible. And right now, I don't see the path except for what Director Young has put forward and Director Katz has second. But I want to clarify with you, Director Odie, you are still seconding.
It's already
Yeah.
seconded. Yes.
I thought it was a discussion worth having.
Okay.
Okay,
So you're
so
still- okay.
we had the motion, we have the second, we had discussion. The substitute motion for now has been put on hold, so we can vote on this one, up or down, and then we will do.
Well, I didn't put it on hold, but I will.
Would you mind? Okay, thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and do a voice
No
vote.
substitute motion.
No substitute.
I'm withdrawing the substitute motion.
We're holding off
For
on
now.
that for now,
there
and we'll
was no
just do
second.
a
You can
Bring the
voice
motion
vote.
after this. There was a second from Director Katz.
Yeah.
Was there a second? There was.
Sorry.
Secretary is clear on the motion.
Sorry,
have-
Risha.
I have a motion to file the report to retain the current methodology for Schedule J, which contains the SEC charges.
Yes.
That's it.
That's a nice succinct way of saying it. Okay,
Okay.
so let's do a voice vote. Director Young?
Oh, roll call. We
Roll
said voice
call.
vote is everybody. Roll call.
Sorry, roll
I'll
call.
go ahead and do the roll call
Roll
vote. It's
call.
okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Director Chan, I'm gonna go in.
Okay.
Go in the
Director,
order you always go in.
Yes.
yeah,
thank you.
Director Chan?
No.
Director Katz.
No.
Director Lewis?
Yes.
Director Odie?
No.
Director Smith?
Yes.
Director Young?
No.
President Gomez?
No.
It's 5-2.
Okay.
Fails.
So
so
the
now we need a motion to-
Guys, so now we
You
need a
already have the
motion, and it will be to file a report and set a public hearing for the water and wastewater schedules of rates and charges, capacity charges, and other net fees, subject to Proposition 218 for fiscal year 2027. And we have specifically item 8.1, which is to file the report and recommendation of the general manager for revisions to the water and wastewater schedules of rates and charges, capacity charges, and other fees not subject to Proposition 218 for fiscal year 2027. And item 8.2, which is to set a public hearing for Tuesday, June 9th, 2026, during the board's regular meeting to consider the report and recommendation. Do we have a motion?
I think I did. I
Oh,
didn't
sorry.
know-
I-
I
we
didn't
have-
know it was that
well-
long, but yeah.
But you have a motion. Okay, we have a motion by Director Young
Can
and
we-
a second by Director Katz. Okay.
Can we have a point of clarification that this is the original?
Yes.
We're voting on the
original.
original.
This is
Okay.
as it appears on our agenda.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second by Director Katz.
I'll confirm that. I second it.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I think we could do, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Nay.
Any abstentions? So we have 2 nays, Director Lewis and Director Smith. Okay, well, thank you all. That was interesting. We move along. After all that,
So maybe quickly going through the last couple items. So
Yes,
the next one, I
please.
won't take a lot of time, but this is as equity adjustment for the water treatment supervisors. I met with Local 21 as part of the impasse meeting, and I'm recommending an equity adjustment of 5%.
I will happily move adoption of this.
Second.
thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Congratulations.
Okay, next quick item. So I've discussed changing the board meeting schedule and the GM authority with both the Planning Committee and the Finance Administration Committee. Both committees have supported the proposed changes. For the board meetings, it was to reduce the number of board meetings from 22 to 18 per year, and that would have made June, August, September, and November one board meeting instead of two meetings. I will say just quickly that I did have additional discussions with staff regarding the proposed change, and we're recommending to keep two meetings in June as opposed to one meeting, so it'll go from 22 to 19 meetings, and I do think that makes sense. If the board supports the change where the meetings in August, September, and November have one meeting, we would still begin, as is our current practice, the committee meetings at 9 o'clock. But we would recommend concluding the meetings at 11:30 and then having closed session begin at 11:30 instead of 11 o'clock for those months. The other change is the GM authority, and that has increased my authority for professional and general services contracts from $80,000 to $250,000. And this is consistent with similarly sized agencies. I'll just note that I've discussed this with all the unions and I've addressed all their concerns.
Thank you, General Manager Chan. We do want a little bit of board discussion on this, Director Smith.
Yes, on the one meeting months, which one? Is it the second
It
or
will be the first meeting of the month,
that is,
the second Tuesday.
so that's the one
That's
that
the one
is
that we will,
removed?
no, that will remain. It will be the second one will be, would not.
Any other board comments or thoughts on this?
Question, the two meetings in June is due to it being the end of the fiscal year, is that the primary?
Yes, we look at that, and we were talking about, some of the issues with approving budgets. We thought that it would be better to have that second meeting in June.
Okay.
Any other board questions or comments? Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, and we don't need a vote on this. This was informational, but it'll come back. Right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure the board agrees to this change, so if I can just hear if there's any concerns, because I will, the next meeting, bring back a resolution to codify these changes. Okay, and then monthly reports attached, and that's the end of my reports.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, General Manager Chan. And item number 12 is to any future items for consideration, to please submit them to myself and to General Manager. And now we move to director comments. Thank you if you have submitted them already in writing, and if not, do we have any director reports? And we will begin to my left today. Director Katz?
I'm sorry, President
Yes.
Gomez, in the interest of time, we have people waiting outside for the unveiling.
Yes.
They have been waiting actually for a great amount of time, so can we,
Can we move it?
can we?
So today, we can skip director comments and instead, please submit in writing to.
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that during the Aqua Conference, the Kawif Community Water Academy had their graduation. It was phenomenal, and the president is with us, if Dr. Sudith, so thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so we will now move to renaming the EBMUD Boardroom in honor of former director William Bill Patterson. We do have public comment, but I'm wondering, Risha, when would be the appropriate time for this?
And so if you could turn the meeting over to Vice President Lewis. Former board member Lisa McIntosh was on point to speak on Zoom, but due to unforeseen circumstances, she's not available. And we do have Cynthia Adams, president of the Oakland chapter of the NAACP here. And we also have Mr. Patterson's son waiting outside, and yes, and then you have a speaker card for Mr. Graves. So the speaker card from Mr. Graves would happen after President Adams and Bill Patterson's son.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will turn it over to Vice President Lewis.
Okay, thank you. You know, I'm going to hope Bill would have been proud today. And that was the reason that he gave the support he gave when I ran for this office. No matter what your faith, I think everybody believes that, you know, somebody giveth and somebody taketh away. And that's the way I feel about this today. Same former director William Bill Patterson passed away in October of 2025. In recognition of his leadership, contributions to the community, and more than 25 years of dedicated service to the East Bay Municipal Utility District, the board is renaming the boardroom in Bill's honor. Bill Patterson's legacy extends far beyond public utility service. His lifelong commitment to civil rights, public service, mentorship, community advocacy, and workforce opportunity touched countless lives throughout Oakland and the East Bay. His leadership and service involvement with organizations, including Oakland Parks and Recs, and I just wanted to call out, I think he knew he was going to be dealing with water when he was at Oakland Park and Recs. I cannot tell you how many leaders up and down this state, especially Black leaders, learned to swim at DeFermery Park, at that pool in the community because of Bill. The Oakland Zoo, Fairyland, the NAACP in particular, the Oakland chapter, McClymonds High School, Peralta Community College, and many others reflected his enduring commitment to creating opportunity and uplifting future generations. Today, the East Bay Municipal Utility District Board is honored to welcome Bill's family, friends, colleagues, and community members as we commemorate his extraordinary legacy and unveil the signage and commemorative plaque in his honor. At this time, I'd like to invite a few individuals who've already been identified to give remarks. Is Lisa back on, Director?
No, she will not be on.
Okay. Could we invite Ms. Cynthia Adams, President of the NAACP Oakland Chapter, to make brief comments? And everybody has, what did?
2.
Everybody has 2 minutes. Looks like we also have Mr. Robert Harris approaching.
I had to bring Bob with me. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I just want to thank you so much for doing this. Bill Patterson was just like a dad to me. Actually, me and Bill and Bob is from Arkansas. So when I came to the NAACP, I was thinking my 30s, late 30s, going into my 40s, and he took me under his wing and taught me everything I do know about the NAACP, and also the memories of the South, what his parents went through. He was also part of Little Rock Nine, and it's just amazing what you're doing. I appreciate you so much. Director Lewis, Vice President, as you know, we were so close to Bill, and this is a very special moment. So thank you for doing this. On behalf of the Oakland NAACP, whatever you need from us, we're here in the name of Bill Patterson. And I turn over to Bob.
WBP cover.
I have nothing to add other than to say that Bill Patterson was a great member of the NAACP, past president of the NAACP, and most of all, he was a great Kappa Alpha Psi man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Okay. I take great pleasure in calling up Bill's son, Mr. Will Patterson, to come and share a few reflections.
In the spirit of President Cynthia Adams and her motion, I'm going to also bring up a co-speaker, my cousin, Risa Pichon. She was especially what I like to call almost one of Daddy's favorites. It would be difficult to run off a list of thank yous to everyone, because I would definitely leave somebody out, and if I did that, I'm going to hear it at the end of the day. But first of all, I'd like to thank all of you. This board was Daddy's home for so many years, and I remember sitting right in this row 29 years ago, I believe it was, when Daddy was first appointed to this board. And as we were walking out of the building, he and I that day, I used to work for him, and what he said, or rather what I said to him was, well, you're taking a new position now, so I guess my services are no longer required. He said, no, not hardly. Your job now is to watch me. And so for the past 29 years, I did that. I watched him with your wonderful Freeport dedication. I was a part of that. I was a part of numerous trips to the North Bay, and I believe Sacramento and Calaveras County, and got to meet some wonderful people and some great folks. But on behalf of the Patterson family, the Jones family, the Strickland family, and all of Daddy's tribe, thank you all very much for this. And I know that Daddy was very proud to have served this board for 27 years. And he was always very, very, spoke very highly of the board, the staff, and every single person who was with East Bay MUD. So thank you all very much. Now, have my cousin close out.
Good afternoon. I'm here today as a member of the extended family of Bill, the Childress Jones family, and Bill's mother's maiden name was Childress. Also representing the family are my sister, Maria Simon, my husband, Ulysses Keyshawn. They're right in the second row. We are extremely proud of Bill and all of his accomplishments. I remember coming here once to swear him in to one of his numerous positions on the board. He asked me to do this as a Superior Court judge of the County of Santa Clara, and I served as a judge for 36 years. It was my honor to do so. I want to say thank you to you for this honor. It is a tremendous honor, and it is well-deserved by him for all of his contributions to East Bay MUD, to the city of Oakland, and also the county of Alameda. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Before I turn this over, I did want to take a minute to, when we made the name change, Bill set the ceiling. There was nobody else we were worried about that was going to serve more than 25 years anytime soon. But there was a lot of thought process put together for future thought. And I just wanted to recognize Directors Jim Odie and Director Joey Smith for their help in the ad hoc committee to do that. So thank you so much. And of course, the board secretary, Risha Cole. I would also say, I know everybody's going to get a brief opportunity to make a comment. So I'll just do mine now and say what you saw today. When I decided to run, I called Bill and or Bill called me and said we were going to do this. And as anybody that worked with Bill know, when you call, you didn't have 15 minutes. You had to be prepared for an hour or two. But he gave you so much information and prepared you so much. And what I've told people is what Bill also gave me was not only the confidence to come and serve, but he gave me the confidence that, Valerie, I think you're going to make good decisions, but I trust you to make your own decisions. And I don't know that we can give anybody anything better than that. You can't ask for a better mentor. Thank you again to everyone, all the family, friends, and leaders who shared Bill with us. Bill thought the world of the staff here and the workers at East Bay MUD. So we're so delighted to have this opportunity. And I'll now turn it over to President Gomez.
Thank you so much, Director Lewis. We actually do have a couple of more public commenters. So I would like to go ahead and have that before we move to the rest of our board comments. So first, I would like to call Captain Matthew Graves, Jr.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for having me here. I enjoyed the prior meeting. Wish I could have made some comments, but I'll save them for another time. Bill Patterson formed the organization back in 1966. It was called the Tolliver Center. And from there it became Alameda County Youth Development. From there it became the Scotland Center. And today, in honor of Bill Patterson and his better half, Dale Patterson, the two together, and I worked with Bill quite a lot through the years. I came on board while we were at Defirmity Park in 2010. And Bill had a resolve to help foster kids, to help disadvantaged kids, to stop juvenile delinquency, and to put a program together because the program was failing. So they asked me to come in. And so I redesigned, redeveloped the program because I grew up as a foster kid. I grew up as one trying to stay out of the system, and I understood what was needed. So we designed a program that includes water safety and testing. We have aviation, 25 flight simulators, and we have maritime, as we're in uniform, as a kind of maritime cadet program. And so it was to get young people, like ones that were here earlier today, interested in careers that we have in the Bay Area around water and around aviation and around energy and conservation. So we put one together. And so today, we decided, in honor of Bill and Dale, to change the name of the center, and we redid our 501c3. It is now called the Bill and Dale Patterson Center. And we have flyers in case someone, if you have to see it. But we received help over the years through EBMUD, through financial support. We did our fundraisers, and we hope that we could get continued support and aid to revitalize the program in light of the public things that are going on, the cuts that are made, and the cuts that are made politically. We need a program to help our young people. And we're dedicated and committed to doing so, and we hope that we have a partner with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Captain Graves. And now I would like to welcome Cheryl Sudduth to speak in lieu of Lisa McIntosh.
Red carpet. Hola, hola. Mr. Patterson. Mr. Patterson was a giant presence for most of us. He wasn't just a director. He served as a mentor and a father figure for so many of us who weren't just in the water community or the environmental community, but in the community, period. For me, I met him when I came to the Bay Area, and I wanted to not just be involved. I was a graduate student, and someone said, "Oh, let me introduce you to," and it was Bill. He knew I didn't have family in the Bay Area, so he said, "No, you have family," and he bring me in. He helped found, as the captain said, he helped us found a few years ago, the California African American Water Education Foundation. And in that foundation, as Director Lewis, Vice President Lewis just mentioned, was this vision to bring water careers to students. See, a lot of us vision bringing the next generation and generations behind us into the water industry. And we do a lot of talking about it. And we train a lot of managers and people already in the industry. But when we talked about it, this vision was to start with middle school and elementary school students, and then to talk to college students. And this past weekend, at the Aqua Conference, we did just that and we graduated our first cohort of students. So Mr. Patterson, I know you're listening to us right now. I have to call him Mr. Patterson. And we didn't just graduate them. We were able to do what a lot of organizations don't do. We gave them a $2,000 stipend, each one of them when they finished. I'm going to say this before I leave. I'm going to say this because especially Miss Lisa McIntosh is also a great mentor for me also. Si no está sentada a la mesa, no se puedan establecer las prioridades o la agenda. Y si no estás sentada a la mesa, estás en el menú o alguien, ¿sí? Ordenada para usted. And in the words of my grandmother, she used to say to us, if you're not seated at the table, you cannot have a say in establishing the priorities or the agenda. And if you're not seated at the table, you cannot have a say in not only what is on the menu or what is being served at that table, but someone else is ordering for you or you're on the menu. But there's a second part to that, if you've heard that before. And this is what I learned from Mr. Patterson. It's not enough to sit at a table. It's not enough to know what's on the menu. But make sure that you are eating of quality goods, just like everyone else at the table. They can't be eating steak and you're eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They can't be eating on fine china and you're eating on paper plates. We don't want to be seated at the table. We want to build the table. We want to have the materials that the table is made of. And we want to make sure that everyone is just as skilled as that discussion that went on before this meeting. We want to make sure that not just equity, we don't just want representation, we want reflection of our communities. And we want to make sure that we are the ones who determine what that looks like. And that is the legacy that Mr. Patterson has left. And I hope that whoever walks into this room and they see that name, not just the name plate, but they see that name, they feel that legacy every single time. We appreciate you, and I appreciate being able to talk on behalf of both of my mentors. I appreciate you. Muchas gracias. Es todo.
Thank you so much. So, now would be a chance for board members to provide any brief comments. And you want to start, Director Katz?
Thank you. I had the pleasure of serving with Bill for all of the time up until this current term, and remember him as someone who was so deeply caring about his community in Oakland, particularly from the roots of his work in West Oakland, where he worked with youth, worked with the students at McClymonds High School, mentored so many who went on to be incredibly successful, and tremendously valued the role of mentorship, the role of the type of leadership that provided a strong role model, and one that drove everyone he touched to reach for the stars and reach for great success and accomplishment. He always thought the best of others and sought to make East Bay MUD among all the different institutions he was involved with, from McClymonds to the Oakland Parks and Rec Department to East Bay MUD, to be the best that it could be. I'm so glad that we're remembering him in this way, especially in a way that extends to our values of equity and inclusion.
Thank you, Director Katz. Director Smith?
Director Patterson and I kept crossing paths at community functions way before I even thought about running for this seat. And Linnell Lewis was present at Jeffries. There was an event, I don't remember exactly which one it was, but Director Patterson was there. And Linnell and I were chatting about how people tend to pick some of the most minute things to complain about when they're at work. And Director Patterson came over and wanted to hear what the complaints were. We shared. He says, yeah, I agree with you. That is small, but it means something to them. I said, yes, I understand that. And I went about doing what was necessary to make the change. But from then on, he started noticing every time we just happened to be at the same community event. And we would chat. Then I found that when he was bringing Miss Dell to events, sometimes it's nice to be assistive when he's trying to focus on getting the car back and paying for the valet, and Ms. Dell had no interest in that. So I would keep her company while he was handling those things. Over time, he realized that I really adore and revere my elders, especially the ones who were doing good in the community. And he actually started embracing me and feeding me little tidbits, a little bit of information here, a little bit of information there. More so than I've gotten from my fathers or my uncles. He really cared because he saw I cared. And I promised him on my first day on the board that I would do my best to mirror what he has poured into me to everyone that I serve. I can't think of a better person to follow footsteps. Sometimes it's exhausting, but it's worth it. That's why I go all the way to UMRA, to make sure that they understand up there that we still care down here. And with that, I'll just say thank you, Mr. Patterson. Thank you to the Patterson family for sharing him with us for as long as you did. East EBMUD would not be the same without him.
Okay, yes, of course. I will keep my comments short. I know people have been waiting for a very long time, and I didn't get to work with Bill as long as other people that are on this dais have. But I just wanted to say that really, he was a small person in stature, but he was really a giant. And he was just so, I think the word is tough. That is really how, my observation of him. He was tough, he was determined. Even when he was sick and he spent half the day in the hospital, he would come to East Baymud meetings after. And that type of resolve is really the resolve of a giant. And, and it's cliche to say love changes everything, but he changed everybody. You're all evidence of that. So I just want to say, again, thank you for coming today. Thank you for sharing him with us. And there will never be another one like him. So thank you. Thank you, Director Chen. And I'll skip you, Director Lewis, since you gave your remarks, and we'll go to Director Odie and then.
Thanks. I'll also be quick. Thanks, everyone, for coming. My first introduction to Director Patterson was when I started working for, he was then Assemblymember Rob Bonta, and I was told, you need to reach out to all of the elected officials in the East Bay and set up meetings with them so I can meet with them. Well, Director Patterson didn't wait for that. He called us. So that's the way he was. He was a doer. He was an actor. He wasn't someone who waited around to get asked to do something. And the reason why this is important to me, I was in a memorial service many years ago, and someone, the preacher or the pastor, or I think it was a priest because it was a Catholic church, said, you know, when we die twice, once when we leave this earth, and once the last time somebody says our name. So for Director Patterson, putting his name on this room means that it's going to be decades, if not centuries, before his name is read or spoken for the last time. So that will be our gift to him. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Young.
I will not top that. I just want to say that it was a joy and an honor to serve with Bill on, on this dais and watch him do so much for East EBMUD. And thank you to the family for, as others said, sharing him with us.
Thank you, thank you. And I will just add that I also was unfortunate to spend a very brief moment of time sharing this dais with him, but he had a long-lasting impression and imprint on how I serve on this board. His compassion just came through, and I had the opportunity to have one-on-ones with him that were just so meaningful and so touching and so profound. I'm deeply grateful to him. And I cannot think of a better human to have East EBMUD recognized by naming this boardroom after him. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for being with us and helping us to continue to honor his amazing, amazing legacy. So with that, we're going to adjourn the meeting and transition to the lobby for the unveiling of the boardroom signage and commemorative plaque honoring Mr. Bill Patterson. Thank you all.